What's up everybody? Today we're going to be making a Eastern European style of bread known as babka, and it's essentially a brioche dough. And if you know anything about brioche bread, it's very enriched. It's got a lot of fat in it from the egg yolks. It's got a lot of sugar. So we're going to take this brioche dough and essentially roll it up in a way that dark chocolate gets swirled throughout the bread. As you all know, brioche bread is good by itself, but let's try swirling some dark chocolate through it and see where that takes us. Alright, so to start we are going to need 200 milliliters of milk heated up in a heat-proof mug. Adding in 1 teaspoon of sugar, and a side note, your milk should only be lightly warm to the touch, not blazing hot. Next, add in 14 grams of yeast, give that a quick stir to hydrate, then go grab Old Bessie. A few pats of encouragement, and we're going to be adding in 3 whole eggs to our stand mixer, followed up with 2 egg yolks. 100 grams of granulated sugar, your yeast milk, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, and then do a little dance while you whisk all of those ingredients together. Next goes 750 grams of all-purpose flour. Slap on your dough hook attachment and let this run on a minute just to kind of mix those ingredients together. After a minute, add in half a teaspoon of salt and let that mix to incorporate. Then we're going to be adding in 160 grams of unsalted butter little by little, letting it mix in slowly. Then we're going to bump that up to a medium-high speed and let that run for about 8 to 10 minutes. Once it's done, it should look something like this, but you might want to scrape some excess butter off the side if it's stuck, and let this run for another 30 seconds to incorporate. And the rest is pretty easy from here. We're going to take this off of the stand mixer, lightly flour our work surface, and go ahead and plop down our dough ball. We're going to fold this a few times immediately to just get some strength built into this, and then we're just going to knead this for a quick minute to kind of build up some gluten in this dough. Nothing crazy, just a few rolls here and there for roughly a minute straight. Once again, we're going to be taking the sides of this dough and kind of just pulling them into the middle. This is going to help give us a little bit more strength, and we're just going to keep doing this until it all comes together. Flip it over, and then you can kind of use this motion with your pinkies tucked under the dough to roll it into a nice taut ball. Boop. From here, we're just going to quickly kind of shape this up into a rough rectangular shape and essentially just cover the entire thing pretty tightly with plastic wrap. Give your dough a name. I named mine Bubba, and we're going to take Bubba and set him over into a neglected sheet pan and let him sit in the refrigerator for at least 12 hours, but up to 24 hours. So we're going to tuck him into the refrigerator, and I will see you all tomorrow. In the meantime, let's thank the sponsor of this video, absolutely no one, and I just wanted to say thank you real quick to everybody who continues to watch these videos, and if you aren't subscribed to my channel now, please go ahead and subscribe because I am cooking and baking good food here every single week, and I want you to be a part of that. Once again, I really appreciate you all, thank you, and much love. Alright, it's the next day. We're taking Bubba out of the refrigerator and let him sit on the counter while we make our chocolate spread. Into a medium pot, I am adding in 120 grams of unsalted butter, 250 grams of 60% dark chocolate chips, and you can go up to 70% here, but I would say stick with 60. We're going to continue to whisk this over medium-low heat until it comes together and becomes nice and glossy. Taking this off the heat, I am adding in 120 grams of powdered sugar, sifting this in, as well as 12 grams of cocoa powder, and be sure you sift the cocoa powder in because as you can see at the bottom of this, there's these little rocks, and you can kind of push this through with your spatula. Using your spatula, you're just going to simply fold all of these ingredients together until it reaches this consistency. Anyways, we're going to take this, set it in a separate container, cover it with plastic wrap, and set it aside. Now we're going to take Bubba, get him ready to go because now it's time to work this dough. We're going to unwrap him and lightly flour our work surface. And we're going to set our dough ball on the counter and cut it into 2 halves because this is going to make 2 loaves. Take 1/2 of your loaf and cover it with plastic wrap while you work with the other half. From here, we're going to lightly flour the first half of our dough, and we're just going to roll this out with a rolling pin. I like to press mine down like this. It just helps with rolling it out easier, and you are going to roll this into a roughly 15 by 18 sheet of dough. This is important and it will affect the final shape of the dough and how well it fits into your loaf pan, so you can trim up the edges a little bit to make it a little bit more even. And I've just simply rotated this dough so the long side is facing me, and now I'm just going to take half of my chocolate spread and just spread it out across this sheet. And you want this to have roughly a 1-inch border all the way around like you see here, and everything is nice and spread out, so we can go ahead and roll up our dough log. The goal here is to essentially roll this up as tightly as possible. This is going to give this loaf some structural integrity, which is going to be much needed, and it's just going to help it look better all around, because the more rolls you make, the more swirls you're going to get in your bread. So after you roll one of these up, you can cover it with plastic wrap and set it on a sheet tray while you work with your other one. Once you have them both ready, you can cut the ends off, measuring that they are 15 inches in length. And then you can simply just take a long serrated knife and cut this thing right down the middle. This is how we get those nice stripes throughout the bread, and as you can see, this stuff is looking pretty cool. So shaping this loaf is pretty simple, but it will make this bread look amazing. So we're going to take this and make an X pattern, and you should get 2 twists per side. So we're taking this first side and giving it a twist, and then we're going to take the other side, give that a twist, and then just repeat the process one more time on both sides. So each side is getting one more twist. From here, all you have to do is simply kind of tuck the edges underneath themselves so this thing doesn't really fall apart, and you can kind of squish it together a little bit too, like you see me do here, to form it into a more loaf-like shape. We're going to drop this into a 8 by 13 loaf pan that has been greased with butter, and I've also put a sheet of parchment paper to help me pull this out whenever it's ready. For more of a traditional style of babka, I would recommend using a loaf pan like you see here, but I'm also using this glass Pyrex dish, and this is going to help me achieve a softer, less crusty loaf. So now I'm just going to cover these with a damp towel and let them proof for an hour and a half. In the meantime, we're going to take 80 milliliters of water and put this into a heat-proof mug, heat it in the microwave, then dissolve 100 grams of granulated sugar, and this will make a nice simple syrup. Once your babka has been nice and proofed, we're going to transfer this over to a room temperature baking sheet, and this is going to prevent the bottom of our loaves from getting too dark. Send these into a 350 degree Fahrenheit oven and let them cook for 45 to 50 minutes. At the 20-minute mark, we are going to rotate these loaves around just to ensure that they're getting cooked nice and evenly. So we're going to let those go for 10 more minutes. So at the 30-minute mark, we are going to take these out very quickly, and I already have these prepared, but we're going to tint these with some tin foil to prevent the top of these from getting too dark. After you tint these with tin foil, you're going to let these go for the remainder of the 45 or 50 minutes until they come out nice and beautiful, just like you see here. So I'm just spreading my simple syrup across the top while these are hot, and the goal of this is that it's going to give this bread a nice shiny look, as you can see here. It's also going to soak up that water and make it retain moisture, and it's just all around a nice, beautiful loaf of bread. Alright everybody, here are our babka loaves. I know you've already seen how they turned out, but just look at this. Alright, so a friend did let me borrow a loaf pan. In exchange for that, I'm giving her the loaf that was cooked in that. I am going to keep the one that I cooked in the Pyrex pan, and my goal for this was the loaf pan in my mind seemed like it would create more of a crust on the outside, which is the traditional way of making this, but the Pyrex dish is going to make it more cake-like since it's not trapping that heat as well around the edges. So I'm going to cut into this cake-like one, save the other one for her, and let's give this a quick taste test. Alright everybody, I've cut myself a piece. Let's dive into this. It looks and smells absolutely amazing. Oh my god. That is insane. Okay, so right off the bat, it is extremely rich, but in a very good way. The dark chocolate, it's still kind of molten on the inside from where it's still warm, and the bread itself, it definitely has that fluffy quality of brioche, but it is also more cake-like, and that could be because this one's coming out of the Pyrex pan. but this is very good. This might be a contender for one of the top 3 things that I've cooked on this channel. And I have roughly 60 videos now, so this is very good. I will say this does take some time, but this recipe is hands down absolutely worth it. I've never quite had anything like this. It is very distinct in its flavor and texture, but in a very good way. With that being said, I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did, please drop a like on it. Consider subscribing to my channel because I am cooking and baking good food here every single week, and I want you to be a part of this community. With that being said, I will see you all on the next one.